Now, we grade the students, but how do we determine if a school is good or bad? NewsHour education correspondent John Merrow explores the question in this report.
Reading is the foundation of all learning. But according to the nation's report card, only 33% of fourth graders are competent readers. At this elementary school in New York City, 33% would be good news. Last year on the state reading test, only 18% of fourth graders were on grade level. Strong evidence of a failing school.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
By contrast, this school is filled with enthusiastic students.
So we got one, the setting, the character. Now we got the plot.
Okay, so I can say...
Teachers provide a supportive and nurturing environment.
The two of them, they know what's going on.
Principal Jorge Perdomo is a dedicated leader.
Today is Thursday, and what else?
And the students are excited to learn. Strong evidence that the school is a success. But what you are looking at is in fact the same school, PS1 in New York City's South Bronx. It serves about 700 students from pre-K through 5th grade, most of whom qualify for free lunch. Based on its reading scores, the school is failing, but in person, it seems to be thriving. Is it a good school or a bad school? There may be a lot of schools like PS1. How should they be judged? Do you believe what you read or what you see? Could educational quality be like beauty in the eye of the beholder? Or does a test score say it all? We went back to PS1 to find out more.
Repeat after Celia, please, nice and loud, especially on the vowels.
D-dog-duh. D-dog-duh.
Our search for answers began in Rachel Hunt's first grade classroom. We found her students getting a lesson in phonics, the building block of reading. They're learning that letters make sounds, that groups of letters make different sounds, and that when you put those letters together, they make words. It may appear to be a simple lesson, but it's not.
And make it say
Ms. Hunt's students seem to be getting it.
Here? Ass. Pat. Good.
What they are doing is called decoding, but decoding is only half the battle. Understanding what the words mean is a much harder skill called comprehension. It's where many children fall flat. Okay, keep your eyes closed, no cheating. To test that skill, I took over the class, asked the kids to close their eyes, and wrote a nonsense story on the board. Okay, you ready to read the story?
The blue pancake went swimming and ate a frog.
Is there anything wrong with that story?
Yes.
Or what's wrong with that story?
There's no such thing as a blue pancake.
There's no such thing as a blue pancake. All right, is there anything else wrong with that story?
Pancakes don't have no mouth.
Pancakes don't have a mouth. Anything else?
They don't swim.
They can't swim? Okay, so maybe it's not a very good story.
The blue pancake went swimming.
Catherine O'Too's first graders across the hall were also able to understand the story. Is there anything wrong with that story?
It doesn't make sense because a pancake can't swim.
A pancake can't swim? Is there anything else?
Pancakes can't eat anything because they don't have a mouth.
Because they don't have a mouth. By the end of the day, it was clear to me that most of PS1's first graders were on their way to becoming competent readers. So what happens between first and fourth grade? Remember, according to last year's state test, only 18% of fourth graders at PS1 were reading on grade level.
Okay, so what piece of evidence in this book proves that?
We went upstairs to Michelle Alpert's fourth grade class to find out.
In first grade, it's all about reading the words, and everything is so literal. But by the time you get to fourth grade, there's a much bigger thinking component.
The fourth grade is a lot harder, a lot harder.
Brenda Cartagena has been teaching for 12 years.
If you look at the test, the third grade test, and compare it to the fourth grade test, it's night and day.
The state's fourth grade reading test expects students to draw inferences and conclusions from what they read, a complicated skill. But why aren't children able to meet the demands of fourth grade? Alpert believes that by the time students enter her class, their often difficult home lives have started to take a toll.
They're not as innocent anymore. They're realizing the things that are affecting their schoolwork. You know, I mean, I have homeless students in my room. I have students with fathers in jail. there's drugs. So that obviously comes into play at a certain point as well.
Both teachers believe that the social and academic challenges their students face in the early grades catch up to them by fourth grade.
So I have readers even as low as first grade through sixth grade.
In your fourth grade class?
Right.
So your job is to do what?
Make miracles.
I wondered how the fourth grade class might perform on the state test this year and asked Ms. Cartagena to send me 2 of her students who were reading below grade level.
I don't hunt to kill.
Jeanette, who is 9, came first.
So far, I have helped to find many new species.
I asked her to read a passage about dragonflies from last year's state test.
About 5,500 dragonfly species buzz around the world. Who doesn't like looking at these amazing insects?
What are species?
Many kinds.
Kinds of species, right, exactly, yeah.
Late in the summer, on a cool evening,
Next came Brian, who was 11.
Father heard a song high in the tree. Listen, when it grows bigger, it left its shell behind.
Wow, yes, I know this word is an interesting one.
Motionless.
What does that mean?
So it means like it stood there without moving for a
Without
second.
moving. Okay, no motion. I also asked them questions from the tests.
Which word best describes Abby?
A,
Active,
B,
curious,
C.
funny, and strong. B.
B, which is?
Because she was finding out, she asked her dad, how does a cicada get out of his shell?
Read the question and tell me the answer.
According to the article, what can adult dragonfly do?
A,
Living for years.
B,
B. Flying backward.
C,
Walk on legs.
D.
Swim in water.
Which answer would you give?
They can fly backwards.
Because you learned that. Oh, okay, so you really can take this apart.
Dragon
These
hunters
supposedly
like
below
eagles,
grade level
finally
readers were
dragon
able to
hunters
read and
like
understand
dragon
passages
hunters
from previous state
finding the
tests.
Chief Wilson
So why were fourth grade
and
test scores
Donna
so
Science.
low? Tell me about the kids. Are they nervous before the test?
Some of them, they do get a lot of anxiety, some of them. Some of them will shut down because they get so nervous.
In many public schools, before students take state tests, they spend up to several weeks preparing and practicing. Do you spend a lot of time teaching kids how to take a test?
To some degree, yes, because I do think that there is an art to test taking. So I want to give them whatever strategies I can to make them more successful, you know, especially my lower functioning ones.
For school leaders and policymakers across the country, test scores are typically the only evidence used to determine whether a school is doing a good job. The stakes are high.
The system takes the fun out of reading. I want them to read for enjoyment. I want them to grab that book because it's fun. I tell them reading, you travel, you meet new friends, you learn how to do new things, but it's very difficult, you know, they take the joy out and then it's hard to infuse it back.
I don't know what the better solution is, but I do think obviously that this puts way too much value on test scores. There has to be some sort of, you know, something else taken into account if you really want to measure a school success, a teacher success, a student success.
Or a fictional character.
So what do you think? Is PS1 a good school or a bad school? You may have already made up your mind, but the people who make decisions about budgets, about who gets hired, who gets fired, they rely on test scores. PS1's fourth graders took the state test in early May. Those results aren't expected until July.